So what happens is we have all of these excuses, right? All these reasons in our head of why I can't do that thing I just said I wanted. And you know what's so incredible? You always make yourself right.
Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a treat for you. It's not every day that I get to have somebody who's a coach. That's what I do and help law firm owners with their growth. As a matter of fact, if you are not aware, we have a program, the Elite Lawyer Coaching Program, and you can book a free coaching call with one of our coaches and get your journey started at profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. But what I love about having a coach on, especially one that focuses on mindset and what's possible for you, is it leads to a great conversation, a conversation that is more about how we limit ourselves and what's possible if we're able to overcome that. And some of the true growth, a lot of the true growth that you need to experience in order to achieve what you define as success really comes from within. So much of our journey, if we look back, is a lot of the time of our journey, like how long it took us to get somewhere, has to do with how long we allowed ourselves to stay down after the last time we got kicked in the nuts, right? And that's really where the ones who achieve rapid success have the ability to just pick up, dust off, and keep going. And I'm excited for what our guest today is going to bring to the table and where our conversation is going to go. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Noah St. John is an author and speaker, and he's the CEO of SuccessClinic.com. He is a mental health coach to the stars, known as father of affirmations, working with Hollywood celebrities, 8-figure company CEOs, professional athletes, top executive and entrepreneurs. Noah's famous for helping his coaching clients make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the previous 12 months. Noah's also appeared on over 1,000 media outlets, busy beaver, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Entrepreneur, and Success Magazine. And he's got a book. You can get Noah's new book, Millionaire Affirmations, the magic formula that will make you rich, at www.getmillionairebook.com. Now, just so you know, if this is the first time listening to it, if not, this is a review. You do not need to remember any of the links that we share. We put them all in the resources section of the show notes page. Just go to profitwithlaw.com. You get the show notes page, and it's got a summary of our conversation, and it's got a resources section where you can click all the links and get taken easily to anything that we mentioned throughout the episode, whether it's a book that comes up, another podcast episode, or a link to go and check out anything that Noah has to share. So all of that will be shared in the show notes page. You can continue your run, continue your shower, to jump out and write anything down. I know I'm a podcast listener, and we listen in the oddest places, right? So I'm listening. I'm listening when I'm washing the dishes. I'm listening when I'm doing laundry, and it's not always ideal to stop and make note of something. But I'm excited to bring Noah onto the show. Noah, welcome.
Thank you, Moshe. Great to be here.
It's also very nice to have you, and I really appreciate your giving your time and being willing to share with our audience today. So thank you for that. I always start with something simple. I mean, chances are a good portion of our listeners just don't know who you are. They never heard of you. So let's paint a picture for them. Who is Noah St. John? What makes you tick? And give us a little bit of your backstory so that they can get a picture, an idea of who it is that we're going to be spending the next 30 minutes or so with.
Well, I appreciate that, Moshe. And to give you the very briefest of briefs, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood, and I know that's a total cliche, But it's true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which happens to be one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished home that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. Now you hear these speakers, we've all heard them, they get on stage and they say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. And so I hated that life of poverty and fear, lack, not enoughness. That's what I grew up with. But I saw right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So I literally said, since the time I was a little kid, how the heck do I get from here to there? And, of course, I didn't have anyone to help me. This was long before the internet, so I didn't have any resources. The only thing I had was the library. So I'm a nerd. I love books. I've always loved books and reading and studying and just researching. You mentioned I'm known as the father of Afformations and the mental health coach to the stars. I'm also known as the nerdiest nerd in the personal and business growth industry. I'm like the Sheldon Cooper of self-help. And so, I just went to the library, started reading all these books on self-help, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey. And I really, really tried to make them work, but I couldn't get them to work, no matter how hard I tried. And so at the age of 25, I was so depressed and frustrated that I decided to commit suicide. I decided to take my own life at the age of 25. Well, at the very last minute, my life was spared.
Clearly you were unsuccessful.
Well, my life was spared at the very last moment. It was, you could say, a miracle. But anyway, the point is that I realized, okay, I'm supposed to be here, but I don't know why. I don't know what is my purpose here on earth. And so I went on another long journey to find, what am I here for? What is my purpose? And it took me another 5 years. I went back to the library, read all the spiritual books of our time, the spiritual thinkers. And anyway, in 1997, I had two epiphanies that changed my life. And that really gave me my life's purpose. So that's what I've been doing these last 25 plus years now, is really helping people and teaching people, what I discovered, which was really what's missing in the traditional self-help industry or personal development industry. And as a result of that, as a result of my teachings, my clients have literally added over $2.7 billion over the last quarter century, meaning we've helped people add, business owners, entrepreneurs, as you mentioned, athletes and Hollywood celebrities. But literally people to add 6, 7, and 8 figures to their business in record time, doubling, tripling, quadrupling their income. And what's amazing about that is I don't teach you how to make money. I teach you why you're stopping yourself from making the money that you should be making and how to stop stopping yourself. So it's really kind of, it's very different from what, the gurus and everybody is teaching you out there. Not that they're saying something wrong, but there's something missing. And that's why so many people have gone to all these seminars and read all these books, and they come to me and they say, Noah, how come I spent all this money and all these gurus and I'm still stuck? And I go, well, because they left out all the good stuff. And that's what we help people with.
So, all right. So I guess for the next 20 minutes, we're going to be filling in what all the stuff is that's missing, right?
Well, as much as we can. Yes.
So don't keep us in suspense. What is the big revelation? What is the big missing ingredient or missing component that you discovered and that you're able to help people with, that everyone else is skipping or we're missing in what we're reading?
Well, yes, absolutely. So, the biggest epiphany that I had 25 years ago was a condition that didn't have a name. And so I had to give it a name. And so let's take a step back for a moment. So think about, for everybody, listening and watching the program, think about your goals, right? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about your goals. We're talking about your dream, your lifestyle. What is it? Really, why'd you get in business in the first place, right? And, people, when I ask people that question, they say, well, no, I want to make more money. I want to have more freedom. I want to have more time. I want to spend more time with my family, go on fun vacations, all of these things that we want. And of course, we want all these things, right? And so it really boils down to something that I just simply call the freedom lifestyle. That's why as entrepreneurs, as for law firm owners or whatever, of course, I work with all different types of industries, from health professionals to athletes to entrepreneurs and so on, across literally the whole spectrum. But the point is that, you did it because, you want that freedom lifestyle. So what does that really look like? Well, it really looks, the way that I've been teaching it for a long time is 4 elements. And those are time, energy, relationships, and money. All right. So if you look at time, energy, relationships, and money, that's what I call a freedom lifestyle. So what does that mean? So imagine if I gave you $1 million tomorrow and I said, okay, now here's $1 million, but you don't have any time to enjoy it. Does that sound like a great deal? And most people go, well, that doesn't really sound like much of a great deal. No, not really, And I say, okay, here's $1 million and you have to be miserable all the time. How's that sound? Well, that doesn't sound very good, right? And then how about, all right, here's $1 million and you have no one that you can enjoy it with. And you're like, well, that kind of sucks too. So you see what I mean? That's why when I put it in that way, people understand that those 4 elements of time, energy, relationships, and money are all very important, right? To live that freedom lifestyle. Again, you can call it whatever you want, just happiness, fulfillment, or whatever. We just call it that freedom lifestyle. So then the question becomes, okay, if that's what I want, then what's in the way, right? Why aren't I living that? Why have I spent all this money on all these seminars or books or self-help programs or whatever, but I'm still not where I really want to be? And so what I realized 25 years ago is that there's actually a condition that is causing that really didn't have a name before I gave it a name. And the condition is going to sound kind of funny. To some people, they listen and they go, that is weird, right? But then some people go, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. So the condition that I named is called success anorexia. Success anorexia. Now that might sound funny to some people, but I'll tell you, when I work with clients and they go, wow, Noah, that really explains so much of what I've been going through these past 10 or 20 years, even, or whatever it might be. And so think about it. You want the thing that you want, right? Whatever it might be. I call it your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's your goal. That's again, as I say, time, energy, relationships, and money, whatever that looks like for you. Even though we all want the same thing, of course, it's different for each person, right? So it's the same, but different, right? So that's what you want. So then why aren't you there yet? So if you think about reaching your goals, okay, it's kind of like driving a car, all right? When we drive in our car, there are 2 forces at work. The first force is the driving force of your foot on the gas. The second force is the stopping force, or what I call the restraining force of your foot on the brake. One foot on the gas, and you have the gas, which is the driving force to move you forward, propel you forward, and then the restraining force of your foot on the brake. But what's so funny and ironic is that at the same time that we want those goals and we're going for them, we have our foot on the gas. Did you know that there are still these restraining forces that cause us to drive down the road of life with one foot on the brake? And so what the gurus are saying is, well, if you haven't reached your goals yet, just step on the gas harder. Just set your goals. Just think positive. Come on, get motivated. Walk on hot coals. And I'm like, okay, that's not wrong. But let me ask you a simple question. If you're driving down the road and you have one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, does it really help to step on the gas harder? Actually, you're just going to ruin your car faster, aren't you? What?
Sounds like a lot more effort.
Exactly. You're going to ruin your car faster. Meanwhile, you're spending more time, more effort, more energy, more stress, and you're still not reaching your goals. So here's what happens in this, let's just call it the personal development or even business growth industry. So you have these gurus, and the first guru comes up to you and says, you know what you need? You need a more expensive type of gas. And you should put in this really high octane gas, and that'll get you there faster. And you go, okay, you put in expensive gas, but you still have your foot on the brake. Are you still going to reach your goal faster? No, same result. The second guru comes up and says, you know what you need? You need new tires. Get these, really expensive tires, get the top line tires. You're like, okay, spend more money, get new tires, but you're still doing the same thing, same result. Third guru comes along and says, you know what you need? You need to buy a new car. Your car's not good enough. Buy this really expensive sports car, and that'll get you there faster. You're like, man, okay, that's really expensive. You spend all this money on a car, but you're still doing the same thing. So you're getting the same result. So what I do is very different. I just simply say, did you know you have your foot on the brake? And, they're like, no. And I say, well, did you know that if you get your foot off the brake, we actually get you to your goal faster and easier, with a lot less stress? You're like, really? And I go, yeah, that's how we're able to double, triple, quadruple people's income in a very short matter of time, because you just get your foot off the brake and you don't even have to step on the gas harder. And like, where do I sign? Right. So that's really what success anorexia, to go back to my point, that's what it really represents. It represents the fact that, yes, we have the driving force, the motivation, which is what everybody's talking about and everybody's teaching, but that's only half the story. The half that's actually the most important is the foot on the brake, because once you get your foot off the brake, you don't even have to step on the gas harder. I'll give you a quick example from one of my clients. One of my clients is a CEO of a software company, and he came to me. He had been making $4 million a year for 4 years straight. And he had spent all of this money on all the gurus, all the marketing guys, all this stuff, right, to make more money, to grow his business, but it was plateaued at 4 million. Now, 4 million is pretty good. I mean, it's not like it's bad or destitute or something, but he knew he could do a lot more, and he was throwing all this money at the problem. So he found me, hired me. I coached him for about a year. In 1 year, we got him from 4 million to 20 million in less than 1 year. And all we did was get his foot off the brake. And that was what's so amazing, is that you don't have to work harder. You don't have to hustle and grind. Again, I'm not saying that that's wrong or it's bad. It's just, you don't really need to do it most of the time.
Yeah, I love the analogy, and it makes 100% sense. But let's talk about what the break looks like. And, like what is the thing that people that's slowing people down, that they have this counter force happening, that no matter how much they try to succeed, this counter force is going to prevent them from achieving what they're trying to achieve. What are those counter forces, and how do we identify what they are?
Absolutely. So that goes back to a point that I talk about all the time in my books and my coaching, which is called head trash. Okay, so head trash is a very simple way to think about these restraining forces that I'm talking about, your foot on the brake. Okay, so head trash, if you think about your goals again, remember, because we're always focused on your goals. Again, everybody listening and watching the program, so think about I want this, I want that. Okay, so by the way, you got to be clear on what you want, right? So people say to me, well, no, I want more money. Okay, here's $5, go away. I mean, no, that's not, you got to be a lot clearer than that, right? I mean, that's not good enough. You really do need to be a lot clearer than that. So right there is actually one thing that's holding a lot of people back. They don't really know what they want. They're not clear about it, right? So right there is a restraining force, believe it or not. Just, and we've all heard a million times, we got to set your goals, but a lot of people either haven't done it, or they're not clear enough, or they're going after goals they don't actually want, which is a whole nother thing. But anyway, so let's say we are clear on what we want, right? You're clear. It's like, okay, I know what I want. I want X or whatever it might be. And then you say, but wait a minute. The very next thought that people have, for many people, is, yeah, but I probably can't do it. Well, no, I really want this, but I don't have the time, right? I don't have the money. I can't afford it, right? Or, my spouse won't let me do it, or my kids, I'm so busy. I don't have this, or, I'm divorced. So I don't. So what happens is we have all of these excuses, right? All these reasons in our head of why I can't do that thing I just said I wanted. And you know what's so incredible? You always make yourself right. See, we humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. So if you say to me, hey, Noah, I want this goal, this is what I want, but I can't do it because, then guess what? You're going to make yourself right. You're going to say, oh, I don't have the time. Okay, you don't have the time. Meanwhile, you and I have the exact same 24 hours in a day that Bill Gates and Mark Cuban and, Warren Buffett have. Everybody's got the same 24 hours. So that's a lie, right? That's a total lie to say, I don't have the time. Oh, but no, you don't understand. You're right. I've only coached 1,000 people on this. Of course, your situation's different. I don't understand. You see this is what we do. We just have these excuses and they run constantly. And the reason that we do that is because the human brain's job is to keep us not dead. That's our brain's job. And when I say the brain, I'm talking about the reptilian brain. I'm pointing to the back of my head here, where the brain stem is, we have these, some people call it the croc brain, the reptile brain, the ancient brain, whatever you want to call it. It's the fight, flight, or freeze brain, right? It really only knows those three things: fight, flight, or freeze. And so the brain's job is to keep you not dead. So if you're think about this. This is a fascinating phenomenon that a lot of people don't talk about. But if you're going after your goals, right, by definition, you're going after change, something different, right? Because, you're here where you are right now, and I want something different. That's called change, right? If I'm making X, I want to make Y. or if I haven't started my business, I want to start my business, or I haven't written a book, I want to write a book, or whatever it could be. Right. Or even it could be about relationships, right? Oh, I'm not in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship. Or I want to lose weight, right? I'm at this weight, I want to be at a different weight, whatever, you see. So it's not just money that we're talking about. And so, but by definition, that means change. So your brain instantly fights that. No. You don't understand, says your brain. I'm not dead right now. And if I do that, what if I end up and I'm dead? Now, I know that sounds silly, right? It sounds insane, but we're not talking about the front cortex of the brain, the intelligent part, so-called, of us humans, right? That's up here, the communication center of the brain that understands like, well, that doesn't even make any sense. No, we're talking about the fear-based part of the brain, which is the ancient one that is driving us. Why do you think so many people set goals and then don't do anything, right? Studies show that 80% of Americans set, New Year's resolutions, right? So New Year's resolutions, that's popular. I want to lose weight, I want to get organized, I want to make more money, whatever. But only 8% actually do anything about those. Why? Because of what I'm teaching right now, what I'm talking about. Because that represents change. Change is the one thing we humans want, and yet change is the one thing that we fear. So the very thing we want is the very thing we fear. That's why it's hard to make these changes sometimes.
Yeah, I love that, and I love the concept or understanding of where it's coming from. Like this is not something that is necessarily in our control to stop from happening. It's there and it's going to happen. We need to recognize that it's happening, and then we need to do something about it. Right. And what I want to ask you about is like okay, I can already see that I need to do some inner reflection. I need to start recognizing when these things are coming up where I'm saying, yeah, but, right. And I need to start recognizing those, right? But what is the strategy to overcome them? Is it just, okay, recognize that I have the yeah, but, shove it down and try to keep going? Like, and
that's what they would tell you. Yeah, right. No,
and
that doesn't work. That doesn't fly at my company. No, that's those clowns.
You call it success anorexia. So yeah. I'm curious, like, is it because anorexia, is that because we're not feeding it or because we're vomiting it out?
Well, like, we're starving ourselves of success. That's what it actually means. That's what again, I'm the person that discovered it, named this condition. And just so everybody's aware of this is a very important point. All right. The condition called success anorexia causes behaviors that we're all familiar with. Okay. A behavior is a symptom. All right. So I'm going to take a classic symptom or behavior. It's called procrastination.
Yep.
Right. Procrastination. That's literally 70% of the people who I've coached over the years. Procrastination is their number one habit that they say they want to change. They come to me with that complaint, gee, Noah, I know I could do so much more, but gosh, I just keep procrastinating. Right. That is a habit, right? It's a symptom. Okay. And so the point is that, so what, to your point of what I did was I created a system, a program that actually cures success anorexia. Since I'm the person who discovered success anorexia, I also created the solution for it, the cure. Now, we have an official name for it, and it's called.
Where do we buy the magic potion?
Exactly, it is. It's the magic potion. So it's called the Power Habit System. This is one of my books. It's called Power Habits, and you can, just go to Amazon and look at Power Habits or powerhabitsbook.com. That's the website. And so what I realized is that highly successful people, okay, meaning the 1%, right? The 1% highly successful, the people we all look up to and say, oh my gosh, there's an example of success, the Mark Cubans, the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gates, and so on, right? They're doing these habits that are unconscious, right? They're doing, and in fact, the full title or name of the system is the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People. Okay, now what does that mean? And it sounds like a mouthful, but I'll break it down. It's very simple. So we humans, whenever we're trying to do a new habit or want to master a habit, right, we actually go through 4 stages of competency. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know you don't know. The second stage is conscious incompetence. That means you know you don't know. The third stage is conscious competence, which is you know. And then finally, the fourth stage is unconscious competence, which is you do without thinking. So the classic example that I always use in my keynote speeches or, with my coaching clients is I talk about driving. right? Driving a car. Probably most people listening to this program know how to drive a car. And yet all of us had to go through these 4 stages. First stage was you didn't know how to drive a car. Nobody comes out of the womb and says, hey, where's my car? Right? We don't know. And then the second stage is now you don't know how to drive a car. Oh, shoot. How do you drive a car? Man, all I have is a bicycle. You're 10, 12 years old, whatever. And you're like, shoot, I really want to get away from my parents. How the heck? I can't get far enough on a bike. I need a car. But, oh, man, I can't drive a car. Shoot. Right? And then we go through that. It's like, I know I don't know. Then the third stage is, you learn how to drive a car. Finally, you drive a car. And then, of course, now for most people listening to this program, unconsciously comment. You do without thinking. And that's what dozens of habits, right? Like speaking, reading, there are literally dozens of habits that we had to go through those 4 stages. Well, what I discovered and realized is that highly successful people went through those same 4 stages, but with this phenomenon called success. And so that's why so many people go to all these gurus and all these self-help programs and seminars, and the gurus are saying stuff that isn't wrong, but it also doesn't help you. All right. Like the example of the foot on the brake, foot on the gas that I talked about earlier, right? None of those things are wrong. Good gas isn't wrong. Good tires aren't wrong. A new car isn't wrong. But it's not even talking about the problem that we have, which is I've got my foot on the brake. They didn't even talk about that. So I'm here going, hey, guys, why don't we talk about the actual problem that is causing every other problem? It's so funny because one of my coaching clients said to me literally years ago, one of my very first coaching clients over 20 years ago, he said, Noah, do you realize that your coaching is the only coaching that fixes every other coaching? And I went, yeah, you're right. It kind of does, doesn't it? And I was like, because that's it. That's what it does. So that's what the power habit system represents. It represents what highly successful people do unconsciously, that because when you're unconscious of something, a lot of times number one, you don't really know you're doing it. And then number 2, because of that, you can't really teach it. So going back to like one of the classics of self-help, which is Think and Grow Rich, right? Probably everybody listening to this program has either read or heard of Think and Grow Rich, right? It's a classic book. And what Napoleon Hill did over 100 years ago, he interviewed all these successful men. And of course, they're all men at that time, right? And he said, hey guys, so what do you do? What'd you do to become so successful? Well, I did this, and this. Oh, okay. So do this, and then you become successful. How come 30 million people read that book and not everybody's a millionaire? Because of what I'm saying right now. So a lot of people have said about my work that my work starts where Napoleon Hill's left off, because they're saying things that aren't wrong, but they also left out the 80%. So it's kind of like, well, it's not kind of, it is exactly like an iceberg, right? An iceberg is, as we all know, 5%, right, is visible above the surface. The vast 95% is below the surface. It's hidden. You can't see it. And as I always say to my clients, it's not the part of the iceberg that they saw that sunk the Titanic. It's the part they didn't see that sunk the Titanic. And that's what's sinking us too, as humans. It's the part we don't see, the unconscious part. And that's what these habits really represent. And that's, again, why we help people get these rapid transformations, going like 4 million to 20 million in a year after he tried everything else, and many, many, many more like that.
So it sounds like the solution is identify the thing that's slowing you down, and then overcome it by just doing it to the point where it becomes a habit, right? Now, is it the procrastination that's the break? In other words, is it just getting in the habit of overcoming procrastination, or is it the specific thing that's causing the procrastination? And
yes.
And
sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay. I mean, the tail end of the question is simply, how do you create those new habits? Right.
Absolutely. Okay. So keeping in mind, procrastination is a habit, a symptom, right, of a deeper problem. So what happens is people try to solve procrastination like this. Okay. And actually this is the method that's taught out there. Okay. If you're procrastinating, stop doing that. Wow. Thanks. That's really helpful. Wow, man. Now I feel so much better. Right. I mean, that it literally doesn't mean anything. Right. And it's kind of like, like self-sabotage. That's another famous symptom out there, self-sabotage. There's lots of books written about that. I read every book about that. And every book basically said the same thing. Okay. If you're sabotaging yourself, don't do that. Thank you. Wow. I feel so much better. Wow, I'm so glad I spent $20 on this book. I mean, hello, you didn't say anything. So that's why, with my system, it's like I had to get underneath it to what the heck is causing all this in the first place. So one of the things that I realized is what a habit actually is, number one. And number two, why willpower is the worst way to try to change a habit. Okay, because that's what's taught out there is, hey, just grit your teeth, hustle and grind, use willpower. Come on, you can do it. Okay, now none of that is wrong, right? It's not wrong per se, but it also doesn't help anything. All right, so let me give you an example. All right, so let's say you're in your kitchen right now. So in your home, and you're in your kitchen, and somebody walks into your kitchen with a plate of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. And they just came out of the oven, and you can smell them. You can see, the steam is rising up, and they're so, like, you're looking at them, and they look delicious, and your mouth starts watering. You're like, man, this looks really good, right? And then so that person, they say to you, okay, now listen, I'm gonna leave these cookies here. Now don't have a cookie. All right, I have to leave right now, but do not eat a cookie. All right, don't touch these. Don't eat a cookie. I gotta leave, so don't have a cookie. Now, what are you gonna do? You're gonna eat 12 cookies, right? I mean, you're gonna wolf down the whole thing, because see, we humans don't like to deprive ourselves of anything, right? Whether it's somebody else telling you or us telling ourselves. So when you're saying, like, stop procrastinating, that doesn't mean anything to the brain. The brain goes, what are you talking about? That does not mean anything. All right. So that's the first point, to realize that willpower, it's not that it doesn't work. It's just very weak. It's a weak muscle, and there's nothing we can really do to make willpower the thing that works. What instead we do is we go a totally different route, and we understand what a habit actually is. Now, a habit is 5 steps, 5 stages. All right. And that is the cue, the routine, the reward, the craving, and the belief. All right. So I'll break that down. So the cue is the trigger that happens in the universe, in your life. So a cue or a trigger could be you wake up. That's a trigger. A cue could be you think about doing that thing that you should be doing. Because what's interesting about procrastination, just talking about this one particular habit, which is, a big thing for a lot of people, right? They go, okay, so I know that I should do this right now. Like, I should make that phone call. I should, maybe make a video. I should call that prospect or that client. I should write that report. I should do a blog post. I should do this because that would help me reach my goal, right? Or let's say if it's in weight loss or health, I should really eat better. I should probably exercise, right? If it's in your relationship, I really need to be nicer to my spouse, right? I need to find things, and instead of being so critical all the time, I really should, be nicer, whatever that looks like. You see what I mean? So again, not just money, but everything, right? So we know what we should be doing. And then what do? We do something else, right? Let's go watch Netflix, right? Because, and that's, of course, goes back to the thing of, I don't have the time. Really? You don't have the time. And yet you're watching Netflix for 3.5 hours a day. That's very interesting. You see what I mean? So anyway, so that's the cue, the trigger. Then we have the routine. Again, that's what you do, right? I think about this thing and I go watch Netflix, right? So we don't do the thing we should do. We do something else. Well, what's interesting about that, we have the cue, routine, and then we have the reward. Now, the reward means it happens in the brain. I was talking about the brain earlier, back here, the croc brain. Well, what's interesting about the reward in the brain is that the reward is that feeling of safety, right? Because as I said earlier, right, when we're thinking about change is scary. Even if it's what I want, I'm still scared. Again, not you, but your brain's scared. So it says, oh, no. Don't do that. Let's just stay right here because I'm not dead, remember. I might be miserable, but I'm not dead. And that's what's so funny about the brain. And then we have the craving. That means that we have a craving for safety, right? The brain craves safety. So that's why we watch Netflix instead of doing the thing that we should be doing. And then the 5th stage of the habit is a belief. We have the belief that says, see, I'm a procrastinator. I told you I couldn't do it. I can't change. Yeah, this is the way I am. It's the way I'll always be. Okay, that's your belief, and you're going to make yourself right. So what happens is, all we need to do to change a habit is actually 2 things. First of all, we change the routine, and then we change the belief. Now, what's fascinating about that is it's easier to change the belief using my Afformations method than anything else that's ever been invented in self-help. Now, my Afformations method is something, and you mentioned, my new book is called Millionaire Afformations, the magic formula that will make you rich. And again, that's getmillionairebook.com, right? And so what is an affirmation as opposed to an affirmation? Everybody knows, everybody's ever read a self-help book or gone to a self-help seminar knows that everybody teaches the same thing. An affirmation is a statement of something you want to be true. So one of the things I like to do at my seminars, as a keynote speaker, I say, okay, everybody stand up and say an old affirmation, just like they taught us, I am rich. And everybody goes, I am rich. What happens next? Everybody goes, they start laughing. I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. Aha. See, now that's the old method. We say these statements that we want to believe, but 90% of the time, we just don't believe it. In fact, the studies show, believe it or not, that 75% of people who use the old affirmations method end up more frustrated than before. So imagine if you had a smartphone that didn't work 75% of the time. Do you think you might get a new phone, right? It's a little frustrating when the damn thing doesn't work 3/4 of the time. So I invented a process that works 100% of the time. I invented a new phone, if you will, for your brain. And that is affirmation. So what is an affirmation as opposed to an affirmation? An affirmation, which was, by the way, the second epiphany that I had in 1997, an affirmation is an empowering question that immediately changes your subconscious thought patterns from negative to positive. All right, so I'll give you an example. All right, so the classic example I just gave, I am rich, to which your brain goes, yeah, right? We just don't believe it. We say the statement, but we don't believe it. So what I invented was affirmations. So what would be the affirmation? Why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, when you ask a question, do you know what happens in your brain? You start to search for the answer. Exactly. Right. Just like if I were to ask you, why is the sky blue? Your brain goes, I don't know. Why is the sky blue? You see what just happened? You search for the answer, even if you don't know the answer. It's like a Google search or computer. You're searching your file, right? If you've ever searched for a file on your computer, it's the same exact thing. You're asking a question. Your brain is like a computer. And so you're searching for the answer. So when you say, I am rich, guess what happens? You bash up against your own belief system. I am rich. No, I'm not. I'm rich. No, I'm not. I'm rich. You could do this all day long. You can do it for 10 years. You'll never get a different result. This is another reason why so many people have gone all these seminars and they're still stuck, because they've only been taught the bash your brain method. So what I invented 25 years ago, the affirmations method, we don't bash your brain. We search your brain. Why am I so rich? And your brain goes, what? Huh? What? But what happens? You start to focus on what you have. And because of the law of sowing and reaping, which is an ancient law, it's been taught for centuries, as you sow, so shall you reap. But what are we sowing? We're sowing seeds of thought. And yet most people are sowing lousy thought seeds. And so what we do is we just change the seeds. Using my affirmations method, we change the seeds, we change the habits, we change your beliefs, thereby we change your results, and that's how we change people's lives.
It's pretty incredible. So is this something like we're doing in the morning when we wake up and we have a list of affirmations that we're going through, and just kind of like we keep reminding ourselves of, what the questions we should be asking are?
Yes. And by the way, with the Millionaire Affirmations, we also have the Millionaire Affirmations Journal, to your point of, what should you do every morning? And that's exactly what we do. We give you a whole year, and you should be, I call it my core 4 formula. You can do this in less than 5 minutes a day. The core 4 formula is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So those are the 4 modes of human communication. We read, write, speak, and listen, right? That's how we humans communicate. So for 1 minute a day, in the morning, you read your affirmations. So you can, read my Millionaire Affirmations book. We have over 300 affirmations in there that can literally change your brain in 5 minutes or less. And then you write them in your Millionaire Affirmations journal. Then you say them out loud, right? You could say to your spouse, your partner, you can say to your kids, your fish, your dog, your cat, whoever, it doesn't matter. By the way, kids love affirmations. If you have kids, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, they absolutely love affirmations, because kids are very smart, as everyone who has a kid knows, or a grandkid, kids are very smart, and they pick up on these affirmations and they absolutely love them. We've got so many stories of kids who changed their lives, literally got better grades and self-esteem. Incredible. So it's, not just for adults, it's for kids too. Kids love. So you could say it, just for 1 minute a day, and then you want to listen to them. So on our website, when you go to noahstjohn.com, we also have iAfform audios that you can listen to throughout your day to change your subconscious thought patterns while you're not even paying attention. So you talked earlier about, when you're listening to podcasts all different times of the day, you can also listen to my Afform audios and literally reprogram your brain while you're not even paying attention. So those four, doing the core four formula, that's how you can literally change your financial future in less than 5 minutes a day.
That's pretty incredible. And this was a great conversation, though. I really appreciate you coming and sharing with us. And I mean, you had me raptured the whole time. I usually am a lot more talkative on the podcast and interactive with my guests, but I mean, I just let you go because it was really incredible to unpack this with you. And I'm on the Amazon webpage right now looking at your books, and I'm sure my listeners will be doing the same. So folks, I just want to remind you, we're going to link all that up in the resources section of the show notes page. You go to profitwithlaw.com to access that, or look in the description of the episode in your podcast player. Really insightful and eye-opening, and I'm gonna try it out. I mean, I'm all for new techniques, and although I've made a lot of progress in my own overcoming procrastination, it's still there. I mean, there's no question that it's still there. And every time that I start to achieve a certain level of success, I develop a new habit of something else that's distracting. Like I'm gonna recently I can count on I got into a TV show series. I got into poker. I got into there's different things that I get into, and then I'm just spending hours and hours on that thing, which is distracting me from my success. So I see it in my own practices, my own life, and I'm sure that a lot of other people are finding their own ways to relate to what you were sharing. So I encourage everybody to check it out, pick up the book, grab the journal, take it for a spin, and let us know. I mean, reach out to us, let us know, was this impactful? Did this change your habits and the way that you go about your life, and really start to move the needle on your success? This is sounds like it should work. I'll take your word for it, Noah.
Well, you don't have to take my word. We have hundreds of case studies of my clients, and that's what's beautiful. I'll just leave you with this thought that it's a system. It's a systematic approach versus a personality-driven approach. In this industry, there's so many big personalities, and that's great for that person. But my argument is always, well, what if I don't have that personality? I guess I'm out of luck. See, so I invented a system that it doesn't matter. That's why we have, as I mentioned earlier, we work with dozens and dozens of industries, from attorneys to chiropractors to, network marketers and I mean, everything, authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, and, literally amazing. Oh, by the way, I just want to give something real quick. It's called freegiftfromnoah.com for your audience members. Free Gift from Noah. That's a new report that I did with a video series that you can literally learn how I help my clients make more in 12 weeks than they made in the past 12 months. I think we gave you a good sample of that today, but freegiftfromnoah.com, and you can learn more about that as well.
Yeah, and like we said, we'll link all that up in the show notes. Appreciate that URL as well. When we close out the show, I'd like to ask you two things. One of them we already answered, which is where should people go and to learn more about you. And we've got the book URLs, and we've got the free gift from Noah, so we got all that covered. The other question is if you had to boil down your advice to our listeners into one thing, like what's one lasting parting piece of wisdom, piece of advice you'd like to share with them as we close this out?
Yeah, I would say, number one, identify your head trash. And number two, do whatever you need to do to take out your head trash, because that is, in fact, the thing that's keeping you from living your dream. And so whatever you need to do, whether it's work with me or read my books or whatever it is, just do whatever you need to do to take out your head trash, because I can guarantee it will change your life.
I love that. And I'm going to add another question to you, because I went to Amazon and I checked it out, and you've written a number of books.
Yes.
So if somebody says, hey, I'm on the Dr. Noah St. John train, and I'm going to consume all his material. What is the order or sequence that they should read your books in to really get the most value and set themselves up for success?
I've published 17 books at this point. My 18th and 19th are coming out next year. So yeah, it's a lot.
Wow,
that
is even more than I thought.
Yeah, I'd start with Power Habits because, as I said, that this really is, my system really all in one book, and it's very powerful. And I mean, like, I've literally had people who read this book or even read part of the book and hired me, right on the spot, and said, no, I need you to help me take out my head trash because it cost me $1 million. And, so that's where I would start. And then, again, the Millionaire Afformations and then the journal, those just came out earlier this year. So those are the, I guess, the three, if you want, that I would start with in that order. Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here with us, folks. If you enjoyed this episode and this is your first time listening to the Profit with Law podcast, we'd love to have you back the next time we release an episode. And you can do that by just hitting the subscribe button so you get notified. We release a new episode every Thursday. There's also well over 300 episodes in the archive for you to go back and binge on. And we'd love it if you went and consume some of that stuff. And if it's not your first time, or even if it is your first time and you really enjoyed this episode, there's somebody out there who you're connected with. There's a friend of yours who needs to hear this material as well. Take this episode and share it with them. The secret to our success is giving and being willing to share. When we discover something new, we discover something that really is going to impact us in a positive way. Being willing to share that with others is the way to just elevate the world and elevate the world around us. And I'd appreciate it if you would help us spread the word by doing that as well. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you next week. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.